All right. Welcome, everyone, to the Angry Asian Uncle podcast. I am your host, Reynold, and my co host.
Hey there, everybody. It's Vic.
All right. Thank you for joining us again for another episode. And today we have another guest, Ian. Ian, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hey everybody. Thank you for having me on. My name's Ian Howe. I'm from Seattle, Washington. Um, y'all, what an intro. Let's see. I was adopted when I was really young, so adopted from South Korea. Been living in the States my entire life. Very lucky and blessed to have that opportunity. But main thing is I'm a dancer, so I started dancing when I was 5 years old. Did everything under the sun that I could competition, traveled all over the US, taking dance classes, doing that. Uh, Worked professionally on cruise ships for 7.5 years, right out
Really?
of high
Wow.
school.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was really lucky to be a dancer, train, all of that, and then basically get a job. Graduated high school, started college 3 days in, and then got a call to go on my first job. So
Wow.
basically dropped out of dropped out of college 3 days in and never looked back. Um, but got to dance on cruise ships for 7.5 years. So literally traveled the world, um, which was amazing. Loved it. And then yeah, I came back to the States once that chapter of my life was done and uh, threw myself back into teaching, choreographing, all of that stuff. Um, And literally ever since then, that was about 2011 through 2012, I own two studios now. I travel internationally, nationally, internationally, teaching, guest teaching. Uh, I do photography, videography, yeah, all the things. So pretty much anything arts and dance related is my life
Wow.
Wow.
currently.
One man tour de force.
Yeah, it's, it's
Like as I get older, I got to find ways to stay relevant. So, whatever I can get
Also
my
to
hands
save
into.
money, right? Typical Asian uncle here. Just so why hire someone else to do it when I can do it myself?
Exactly. Exactly.
right. Exactly, right.
Yes.
One man show there. Yes.
But yeah, no, I mean I mean some of it's been out of necessity just because it's, as with any industry, but especially, the arts and then more specifically a dancer, like I'm considered old, I'm turning 40 this year. So considered old, next 18-year-old's gonna take, you know, jobs coming up. So literally like finding ways to still be relevant in
Oh,
this industry, not just through teaching choreography, but you know, uh, being able to do photography, being able to do videography, being able to create and run shows, and uh, mentoring the next generation. So it's a lot of always evolving, always uh, finding new ways to leverage the knowledge that I currently have. So
yes. It's okay.
yeah,
40. That's us. Uncle's age is all good.
yeah,
I
exactly,
also heard
exactly.
that. Yeah, Ian, I also
I have,
heard that being a professional dancer is sort of like being a professional athlete. Like you have a good 10, 15 years, like a golden period where you can be at your physical peak. And
yeah,
then after that, like everybody else, everybody ages, right? So you start getting places that hurt or sore, and you're not able to perform the same level that you used to.
yep,
So I think what you're doing is smart. You're branching out into different facets of the creative arts. It's not just dancing. Like you said, there's photography, etc. I think that's good, right? Because you can't perform like you did when you were 20, right?
oh yeah, exactly. No, there's about I mean, depending on who you talk to, but I would say there's probably about a 15 year, 10 to 15 year, like I think what you said, golden age, golden time to perform and be able to do that. Again, I was really lucky that I was able to travel, get paid to dance, get paid to travel for 7.5 years, and then, come back when I was 26, 27, and still kind of do performing for another few years. So, I mean, I was performing well into my like early 30s, but it definitely my body hurt a lot more and a lot sooner as I got older than when I was in like my
Right.
20s. So
Well,
Uh,
everybody's the same in the same boat, so don't feel
right.
bad about that.
for
The
sure,
recovery
for sure.
process is longer. Yes.
Oh
But
yeah,
Ian,
Well,
have you always known that this is what you wanted to do? Like you wanted to be in the creative field, you wanted to dance?
yeah. When I was 5, I was watching Sesame Street, and there's this famous tap dancer. His name's Gregory, not Gregory Hines. I'm sorry, Savion Glover. Um,
I think I
and
saw that
he,
episode. Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
okay, yeah, he was on there. He was like maybe God 8, 9, 10 years old, and just tap dancing on Sesame Street. And I told my mom I could do that. Um,
And
and
your mom called your bluff and put you in tap school?
I mean, like it was kind of honestly, it was one of those where I was a very outspoken young child, so like, grand statements, whatever. I told my mom I could do that, and she was like, "You think you can?" It's like, "Yep." She's like, "Okay,
All
let's go."
right.
And
You asked for it.
and yeah, exactly. And that's, and so parents put me in, it was this little single studio uh dance school that was above somebody's garage because they were just starting out, and put me in tap class, and told my parents you can't come in and watch me for, so they didn't even know if I was actually participating in class like the first couple
oh,
years, because like, nope, can't come in, but went in every week. uh but yeah, it's kind of all downhill from there. They kept putting me in dance class and kept just adding classes on. So yeah, I would say probably the first couple years were just more defiance and, oh, okay, you're putting me in this, I'm gonna do it. But kept adding dance classes on, and then by the time I was probably like 9 or 10, like I knew
oh,
that this was what I wanted to
Oh,
do.
awesome. Yeah.
yeah, that's pretty good. That's
You
pretty
obviously
supportive
enjoyed
parents
it. You
here.
keep doing it.
Yeah, no, I mean it's definitely, I'm one of those stubborn, hard-headed people too, though. Like you tell me I can't do something, or don't go press the red button. What's the first thing you want to do? Press the red button. So
Right,
I'm
right.
kind of that personality, but no, it was, as I did it, it, I think if you're lucky enough, you find your calling to do something, either that be in the moment or be long term. And this was one of those things that just, it became a long term thing. There's always, with anything that you find that you love to do, there's always
Interesting.
hard things about it, easy things about it. But this was one of those things that like it just made sense for me to keep
Mhm.
doing. Um, by the time I was, gosh, 12 or 13, like I was pushing 5, 6 days at the studio. So like,
Wow.
dancing 25, 30 hours a week, still trying to do school. So my parents finally just homeschooled me so I could
Oh,
dance full time essentially. So by the time I was like, God, probably 13, 12, 13, um, homeschooling in the studio the entire, 6 days a week. Um, uh, traveling more at that point, uh, really, pushing for a future in dance. So,
oh. So there
Bro,
were so
imagine if somebody told Ian that, oh, I bet you can never be president. Oh, I bet you can never be an astronaut. Imagine if somebody told him that.
oh man,
right,
he'll be president and an astronaut.
Yeah, the
right,
places that Ian would reach.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
But no,
Oh,
it is one of those things where it's like, just jumping down random rabbit holes as we're talking. Like, people do ask me like, if you weren't dancing, what would you be doing? Uh,
Yeah,
and the
what
first
would
answer
you
is
be
like,
doing?
I mean, my initial thought's like, I don't really know because I never really trained to do anything else. But
right.
uh, I feel like, honestly, like scientists, that type of thing, I feel like that would be the next avenue that I'd probably jump down. So I love reading about
Interesting.
sciences. I love theoretical physics,
Yeah,
which
great,
again,
great.
completely random. But
Wow.
yeah,
Bro,
so
again, an overachiever problem here. We got another overachiever on our show
Right.
here. It makes us look bad, right?
That's right.
yeah.
We should be getting used to that anyways. Right.
Okay, so
Oh,
well,
right.
you told me to ask you questions. So what was you, did you all have a calling? Did you all have a thing that, as you were younger kind of has threaded its way through your life as you've gotten older? Or has that kind of changed?
I think has changed, but maybe Vic can go first.
Well, you want me to go first? All
Yeah, yeah.
right. Thanks for
I'm
throwing me
throwing
into
you
the
under the
fire
bus
here.
first.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and honestly, I don't know. I mean, I don't have it all figured out. I just take it one day at a time, you know.
I
So,
was
yeah.
I, I I was gonna say to rebut that, even though you didn't give me a full answer. I don't have it all figured out. I just know, like, I still joke with people. They're like, because I am, top down. I'm very lucky that I have a career in
Right, right.
something that I've trained for, and I continue to have a career in that. Finding different things to keep me relevant, to keep me
Yeah,
going, to keep me
you find
motivated.
meaning also in what you
Yes.
do and joy, and it's
Exactly.
great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
but at the same time, like I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. Like that,
Oh, that's great.
and that's still like I feel like a true statement that yes, I have a passion, and yes, I'm again very lucky and blessed that I had supportive parents that, pushed me to do it. I have a supportive community that keeps me motivated to do it, and I have the avenues to be able to do it. Uh, but still, things could change. I could, knock on wood, but I could have an injury tomorrow where I can't do X, Y, and Z, so I have to pivot. Uh, like COVID was a great example of having to pivot on something that I love, being in person, 20 people in a class, and then being told you can't have anybody in, you
Good
know,
point. Yeah.
a giant space. So I would say to your not having it all figured out and don't really know, that's okay. Like I
Right.
think if you do have it all figured out, then really you've probably reached the apex of what that is. And then
Yeah, that'd
from
be so boring, right? If you have it all
yeah,
figured out already, it'd be so boring. Yeah. Well,
yeah.
let's throw Reynolds under the bus down. Yeah, yeah. Reynolds, go ahead. Go.
I'm saying, well, I'm still trying to figure it out too. So, um, same thing. I'm not trying to copy everyone's answer here, but I've been trying to figure it out since, yeah, since high school. I thought, I thought I was gonna do some computer science stuff because that's what I studied in college, and then that didn't pan out. And then right now I'm doing like vending machines. I have a vending machine business, which is totally like non-related to anything I studied in college.
But
And then, but yeah,
I,
uh, you
I
were
was
gonna
gonna
say,
say that's okay though. I mean,
yeah.
I know plenty of people who went to college for one thing and now they're doing something in the complete opposite field,
Oh yeah,
you know?
Yeah, to Ian's point about having the right support and right life circumstances, I think that's really important. In Chinese, we call that Ming, right? And everybody's Ming.
yeah,
It's different.
yeah,
So also 缘分. So like
yeah,
for me,
yeah.
it's like sometimes you have the passion or the talent, but if you don't have the community or supportive parents, for example, that can push you along and guide you, support you financially, sometimes a lot of those innate talents don't really get a chance to develop, and that's a shame. But then, and according to Chinese people, that would you would just say that that's kind of mean, right?
Yeah,
That wasn't meant to be. Yeah, yeah.
man, yeah.
So
More
in
of
Ian
Yeah.
case, that was obviously meant to be.
yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
No, hey, and I and,
yeah,
and I'll take it. And,
yeah. Work
it's
with what you got.
it's
Yes.
yeah, exactly. Work with what you got. And then I think it's also part of it is just, understanding that it's okay if you don't achieve certain things. I think that is, it's uh we're pushed so hard sometimes in whatever field we're in, or not even a field, like situations to be like, you have to achieve this, it has to be perfect, it has to be, done with these 6 steps, and you have to do it while facing north and, on this day of the week or whatever. And it's like, nah, dude, it's okay. Like sometimes you're not going to be able to achieve certain things. That's not necessarily a failure. It's just, you have to adjust your standards. You have to adjust, what you're doing and keep moving forward.
Yeah, I also find that among Asians, we're usually our own worst critic. So obviously we get a lot of pressure from our parents, especially the older generations, right? But I
Mm,
think we're so hard on ourselves as Asians that we're our own worst enemy, really. If we don't hit those goals that we set for ourselves, we usually get so disappointed, right?
yeah,
Yeah. Well, and
yeah,
like for me, the funny thing is that like I'm adopted, so I grew up in a Caucasian family. I grew up in a Caucasian neighborhood. Um, But it is interesting to think about that because it's like I know a lot of I have a lot of Asian friends that grew up in that household of like what was it? Uh, oh God, what was the joke from the one show where it's uh like a B is an Asian F or something, or an A minus is an Asian F for like I don't know,
Yeah, yeah,
something like
yeah,
that.
Right.
right, right.
Hey,
Um,
wait, that sounds familiar.
yeah, yeah. I don't remember what show it was, but something like that. But
Yeah.
it's still it's interesting to hear that. It's interesting to observe that because like I grew up in a Caucasian household, and they made sure that I knew of my culture, all of that, but it wasn't like I grew up in that environment, but I still
Mhm.
have that same mentality of like setting high standards for myself, setting, and being upset with myself, especially when I was younger, if I didn't hit those goals, those standards, and, really honestly creating like anxiety for myself because of not living up to those standards that were self-made. So,
Yeah, that's such an
Yeah.
interesting thing you bring up. Yeah, what's it like growing up in a Caucasian household as an
Yeah.
ethnic Asian person? I mean, also like I'm just curious, like so if you go out into the world, like you meet other Asians, do you have certain things that you feel that are innately Asian that just comes out of you and you can't really explain it? Or I don't know, I'm just curious. What's it like for you?
uh, I mean, it was like I said, like my parents, I was 3 months when I was adopted, so like I really, truly, I mean, I joke, I was like, I'm a fake Asian. I look it, but I don't sound it. Um,
You're a banana.
I'm a banana. Uh, right? Oh, that's a good one. No, so it's like really truly like I mean they made sure that like we would always cook South Korean food if we had the chance. They get me books. They try to give me as much of my culture as they could, you know, within the context and within the parameters they could in the 1980s,
Right.
which completely different time than what it is now. Um, I mean, I think there are definitely some things innately that are the South Korean Asian that I just gravitate towards. Like
Like for
food, I think
example,
is a
even
big
taste
thing.
in food, right? Like if you go to
Yeah.
like a Korean restaurant, do you feel like, oh, this tastes strangely familiar, or like I'm liking this. I don't know why. I just feel comfortable with
Like
this.
I think that's a great word for it. Like just feeling comfortable with it. Like it was never, obviously like not having grown up with certain things, like I'm gonna ask probably what some people would consider stupid questions, being like, what is this? What do you do this? And they're like, really? You don't know? I'm like, nah, dude, you're gonna have to explain it to me. But I think it is
That's so
having that,
interesting.
Right.
yeah. So, I definitely get the looks from some that are just like, you really don't know what X, Y, and Z is. I'm like, nope. You,
Yeah, so it's, I can
you
just
just
imagine like you being like out in the world and like meeting other fellow South Koreans and they just take for granted some stuff. Like you're just supposed
Yeah.
to know. And you're like
honest
completely like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
honestly, it really is. It was so like on so going back to like cruise ships, like I literally traveled the world.
Mhm.
I went to, 100 plus different countries, all seven continents, and so like I really was lucky at a young age to go immerse myself in different cultures. But places like Hawaii and Japan, uh, Hawaii and Japan especially, they for a lot of Korean immigrants, um, or just people being there that were from South Korea. So there were a lot of things there, especially, walking into certain restaurants or walking into certain situations where they knew what I was as far as like what I looked like, and they had assumptions of how I would act, and then I would talk, and out comes this very American dialect and accent with no hint of any type of Asian accent, and they would
I
just,
was
and
really
then they
shocked
would
though, right?
Yeah.
it honestly, it did. And
Like
then,
their brains
they would,
couldn't process it. Yeah.
Right.
and in Japan especially, because in Japan they don't speak a lot of English.
That's true.
It
Yeah.
Right.
is,
Yeah.
it is, like I had to, what was it? Doko deska was one of the phrases. It's like where is or what is, if I remember correctly. Um, but walking into a shop, they would see me, they would look at my white friends that were with me, and then they would start talking to me just in Japanese or whatever. And I'd be smiling. I'd be like, Uh-huh, great.
I'm
That's
just as
cool.
American as they are. In fact, I might be even more American than they
Yep.
are.
Yep. And I mean, and to see the confusion on people's faces, especially in some of those countries, was just it was not shocking, but it was definitely one of those things like, oh yeah, this is that there are assumptions that go both ways.
Oh
Like,
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
we as Americans have assumptions about, you know, as ironically as saying it's been foreigners coming in. And then same thing for them. They have, they see something, they assume it's going to be one way, and then they're completely shocked and don't always necessarily know how to act when, the opposite comes up. So,
What is
uh,
something that
Yeah.
is pleasantly white that most us Asians don't know about that you can tell us about?
oh my God, pleasantly white. That's
Yeah, like some of these undiscovered gems, like as Asian uncles normally like I have no idea what that is, but then because you grew up in a Caucasian household, you'd be like, no, this is delicious, or this is great, or this kind of experience is wonderful. Yeah, you're missing out, like something we don't know.
oh, wow. I don't know. I mean, that's a good
Well,
question
well,
because
the stereotype, Ian, is that like growing up in a white household, like white parents are very forgiving. They're very lenient. Not like Asian parents are usually tiger moms, right? And then they breathe out on you. You better get an A, otherwise don't expect to come
Right.
home
Yeah.
today.
Right.
for
You got
sure.
A
No,
minus. Yeah. Don't even walk in.
I mean, okay. I think my answer to that would just be that, like, that's it's a genuine and legitimate question that you're asking me, but it's also hard for me to wrap my head around just because I'm going at it backwards, I guess, from what
Hmm.
you are. Like, I grew up in that household of, like, I guess speaking on that specifically, because you asked, like, it's my parents had very high standards for me. It may not have been in the Asian mother, Asian father, like, type scenario, but I mean, it was still like, no, you need to get good grades. You need to do X, Y, and Z, and here are the consequences of X, Y, and Z if they do not happen.
Yeah, they
Um,
do sound very
Yeah.
Asian, actually.
yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say they're probably more Asian than they're more Asian than what white parents would be. Um, but it's like there are so many things that like going to the Asian cultures, going to China, going to Thai, going to again on cruise ships, Japan, Thailand, China, uh, Vietnam, South Korea, like going to those places. So for me, it was almost like I was excited for the first time to actually go to those places and experience those cultures, experience the food, the people, the drink, the tourism, obviously, because there's things there you want to go see, but then uh, just immersing yourself somewhere, and for me being like, oh, this could have been my life, if I wasn't adopted, if
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
wasn't,
Yeah,
or,
yeah.
Yeah.
so like, I think that's why that question is so hard for me because for me, there were so many probably what would be normal every day, to generalize an Asian experience for you both, that for me was like walking into going like, food, like what is this amazing food that I'm having that's not been
Mhm.
westernized, here in
Yeah, yeah.
Seattle, but it's actually like, you know, cooked here. I don't know. So
Yeah. Like authentic.
it's a I'm sure that there is some white American family thing that I could think of that I'd be like, oh yeah, I guess that would make sense. But
I was
for
half
me,
expecting you to say something like, "Oh, meatloaf is more delicious than you think." Like,
Oh
don't
my.
knock meatloaf;
oh,
it's good.
I
Really low.
meat
Uh,
meatloaf is good, but it depends on how you cook it, and it depends on what you put in it. I will die by that.
uh,
So,
I was
I mean,
half
well,
expecting
no,
you to say other things like, what going into the house with your shoes on? That's perfectly okay.
but see,
uh,
okay, I guess I'm more Asian than what I thought. That is such a hard thing for me to do. Like,
oh,
I
Really?
really?
automatically take my shoes off. I automatically take my shoes off.
Your genes are
Like,
kicking in at this point.
Right? Yeah. It's
yeah,
just
apparently,
automatic.
dude, honestly, that's the thing is like, for me, that's always been something where I'm like, no, you take your shoes off. That's the polite thing to do.
It just seems right? Just
Yeah, it
seems
just
like
seems
the
right.
right thing to do.
Yeah.
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 Interesting.
And
Yeah,
it's
right.
like, and there, I mean, and if I know that the household is okay with me wearing my shoes in, then I may not think about it, but nine
Mhm.
times out of ten, it is just an automatic reaction for me to pull my shoes off, put them in a corner, put all my like, keys, wallet, whatever, like I put it in my shoes and then put them in a corner. So maybe I'm
There you
more
go.
Asian than what you know.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and Ian, to your
Right.
point about like, what your life could have been, like the what ifs, that's so interesting to me because everyone thinks about the what ifs in their lives, right? If they took path A instead of path B. But more so in your case, like you go to all these Asian countries and you imagine for a second, oh, what my life would have been like if I was like, living and growing up in Asia, right? Totally different
Yeah.
from the life experience that you have right now, right? This goes back to what we were saying about like there are two types of Asians. This is obviously a joke, very non-PC, but it's like there are jungle Asians and fancy
Yeah.
Asians, right? so
Well,
like, so
I was,
sometimes maybe
yeah,
like you go to some of these countries and the jungle Asian experience is really raw. I gotta say, yeah, it's like really intense. And then the fancy Asians, like South Koreans and Japanese, Chinese, and those are another type of Asian experience. And then contrast that with you being adopted into a white family and growing up in the States, but being ethnically Asian. I mean, I'm trying to wrap my head around it actually.
No, and no, and it's equally like I mean it's still one of those things that like I really do think about that it's again I was adopted at 3 months. I was adopted into a Caucasian family that and again those two things back in the 1980s was probably more prolific than what it is now for various reasons. But uh it's so hard to adopt now, so I can't even imagine being stuck in the system for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. That would
yeah,
be insane. Um, but then being adopted into a good Caucasian family, that wasn't just there because on a whim they were like, we want to have a kid. It's like, yeah, okay, we got a kid now, but that whole whatever.
right.
Um, so that unto itself, very lucky. But yeah,
I
no,
was,
it's
oh,
oh, go ahead.
is that, yeah, I was thinking, going, uh, in regards to your parents, like you're adopting a Caucasian family. Do you think it played a role, in your opportunity to have the career that you had, like dancing? Because that's not a typical Asian family career. We would send the kids to do the dancing or do the art and stuff. And like we were saying in another episode, it would be more like a hobby for them. Like we would like send it to them thinking it was a hobby. We knew we would never want it to be a career because we would still say, you could do your dancing as long as you finish your homework, all that you gotta make sure you know your math and your science. So yeah, that scientist career, that sounds good, right? That engineer career, that sounds good. Yeah, the dancing you could do on your off time. Right. So do
Yeah,
you
no, no, I 110% think that it is one. I mean, yes. The short answer, yes. I think it is very. I think I have more of a chance of doing the career that I do now, being in the States, than what I would have if I was still in Korea or some Asian country. Um, but I also do think that it has a lot to just do with my parents in general, in the community that I grew up in general. Yeah,
right,
I mean, I was really good at stereotypically, really good at math. I was really good at, sciences, all of that stuff. So I was actually very advanced for my grades before I started homeschooling. That was part of the reason why I started homeschooling too, was academically the school district couldn't keep up with me. So they were like, go tests, go do some of these tests, and they're like, go homeschool. You'll learn
uh,
more, you'll be able to do more, whatever. Um,
right,
so academically, I was very smart too. So I could have gone down the scientist route, I think, if I really wanted to.
right,
But uh, I think that in general, the arts are such a uh, uh, job industry to go into, hard industry to go into, hard industry to make a living. Because I mean, there was a time where I was teaching 30, 40 hours a week, dancing on top of that, and then still working a 40-hour a week daytime job because I couldn't afford,
Right.
with
It's
everything
it's
that
not
there's to
easy.
it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
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 Exactly. Yeah.
So I think in general, a lot of being able to do what I'm doing now is just because my parents pushed me. They're like, if you're gonna do this, you know, still be good at your get good grades, do good in school so that you have something to fall back on if you want, but we
Right.
will support you if this is something you really want to do. Um,
Right.
Yeah, Ian, because Reynolds and I are just like bewildered because that's such a white people move, like
Yeah.
your parents fully supporting you to go into dancing. That's such a white
Mhm.
people move. Like
Yeah.
most typical Asian parents would be like, no, 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 no. You can dance as a hobby, that's fine, but you
Yeah.
better become a
Exactly.
doctor or a lawyer.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's
You
such a
could do
white
that on
people
the
move, right?
side, right? That can't be your main
okay,
source of bread or something.
okay, okay. So then my question to you is, do you think that because I mean, there aren't as many, obviously, like Asian dancers that I know of that grew up in, I'll just say didn't grow up in the States, grew up in some other nation. Um,
Mhm.
but do you think, because
I
there
think
are
I
some,
think I kind of
like,
know what you're getting at. Yeah,
yeah,
but
it's like, I mean, it's like there are still dancers that come out of Asia. There are still,
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
culture there dance-wise is still something that is so big and so, like K-pop, for example, or J-pop or S-pop,
Right.
you take those things. And I
Yes.
know that those are genres of music, but
Yes.
I mean,
They dance
there
all the
have
time there.
been, they dance all the time, and there have been, like, we have classes here in the States that are strictly for K-pop, J-pop,
Mhm.
S-pop, all of that stuff. So do you think it's like a rare Asian parent then that is supporting those rare Asians that are actually making it in the media and making it to where people are seeing them? Or do you think it like that's not exactly the perfectly worded question, but I'm like,
Yeah.
we
I,
see so much influence from Asian culture when it comes to very specific Asian things. Yet,
yeah.
you know, I understand where you both are telling me that like the typical Asian family would be like, go be a doctor, go be,
Yeah.
have a career that you know is going to bring you money and stability.
yeah, I think we
For
have to
me,
frame it. Oh, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah. For me, I sort of think I know what you're trying to get at too. I think in the for me, I think in the Asian community is the process. Asians don't like the process, so especially in this type of stuff, like an extracurricular activity, like it's good on your college resume. They're all for that, but you know, but it's like if you're just mediocre or something, you're sort of developed, and it takes away from your actual studies, like book studies. They don't like it as much. But I think the ones that maybe is because there's some sort of in like there's a talent, or they somehow got there's a lot of acclimate, like the dance, the kid, whatever, doing that sport or doing that art was is already getting like a lot of recognition, and then they go
Gotcha.
into it because they love fame, right? Asians love fame, so if they're already getting a lot of like, the media is getting on them, and they're the whole community is, oh, this is he's great, he's a great dancer, he's a great artist, or he's a great basketball player, whatever. And then
Yeah.
the parents might lean into it because thinking, okay, I got something here, I'm going to use that to lift up my status in life, sort of, right? But
Interesting. Okay.
yeah, but if that's again my thinking. But if you're just mediocre, like you're just, hey, you're just the average kid, but you like dancing, and your parents like, oh, that costs a lot of money every week, and then you're practicing. Okay, well, we'll do it to give you something to do. But come college time, you better be buckled down, be ready to pass that SAT, and get that degree or something, be that
Yeah.
engineer or that doctor or something, because how are you going to support yourself dancing or whatever, painting or whatnot, right? No one supports them. Well, that in their head, yeah, they'll
Yeah.
tell us, hey, no one gonna you're not gonna support yourself doing that. You can't buy a nice house and a nice car and raise 2.5 kids, right?
Do you feel like that mentality has gotten, I don't want to say worse, but do you feel like that mentality has hardened as the years have gone on, or do you feel like there's been at least somewhere maybe a slight cultural shift as far as, the expectations?
For me, I think there is a slight cultural shift. I think, especially in America, at least the ones that, because now we're at as uncles are now of parenting age, so we sort of saw that and said no, and we've been Americanized too, so we feel like, hey, we should give them a chance to explore what they're interested in. And if it's not being an engineer or doctor, then so be it. A lot of parents I speak with now, even even myself, is like open just learning a trade. Like, oh, if it's just being a plumber or a mechanic, hey, I'm okay with you, because hey, at the end of the day, you develop a skill, you can earn a living. That's fine. If you're not a doctor, if you're not a scientist or whatnot, then that's fine. So be it. As long as you're happy with your life. So I think that's the us younger generations are coming up. I think even the younger ones, I think now the Gen Z or something, they have a complete whole new mindset that I'm not even totally familiar with. So I can't even comment on that. But I think they're
For
even
sure.
transitioning more past that.
Do you think that's just here in the States, or do you think that that is again like a global cultural thing?
Maybe Vic could shine more light on that, because I'm more in the US, so I
Yeah,
could comment on that more. Yes.
Well, I was just going to say that I think you have to frame it in the context of what generation people are growing up in. I mean, to your point a while ago, Ian, like you said, you grew up like we're all in our 40s, so we grew up in the 80s, the 90s. So
hmm
our available path um, was kind of limited by the zeitgeist of the times, right? And so
yep.
fast forward to today, more and more young kids, they have other options. They have other roads open up to them. Like
hmm
over here in Asia, for example, to your question a while ago about like, hey, what about J-pop? What about K-pop, right? Yeah, precisely. I think as a country changes and most people are doing well financially, Asian parents loosen up a little bit and like they let their kids explore other things. Like, it's not all about being a doctor or a lawyer anymore, because economically people are doing better and you
Yeah,
don't have that kind of financial pressure pressing down on you as much. I mean, there will always be some financial pressure, like it's impossible not to
of
have it,
course.
right? But then, compared to maybe the 1960s or 1970s, the country as a whole is doing so much better, right?
Yeah,
And so, like, when their
for sure.
kids tell them, like, hey, mom, dad, like, I want to be a dancer, they're a little bit more open to that idea now because they're doing well financially. Like, "Ah, okay, I guess we can afford to let you try it out for a couple of years. And then we set up some avenues for you in case that doesn't work out. You can always come back for the family business, for example, or your uncle has a business that he needs people to help him out with. So I think if you take it in that context, in that light, that explains a lot of why. Oh yeah, it's starting to open up for as an actual viable career for most Asians nowadays. So
For
yeah,
sure.
that's my view. Especially here in Asia, I think there's such a shift in the past 20 years. Like Reynolds was saying earlier, because we're from that generation, right? So there are a lot of things from the Gen Zs that we don't really actually we're not privy to. We don't
Yeah,
actually understand the way they think,
for
because we're
sure.
from that generation that we grew up in the 80s and 90s, right?
For sure.
Yeah, kids nowadays, I think they're more they're not afraid to speak up.
Okay.
They kind of tell their parents or their elders directly what they want. They also out of necessity as well. Sometimes, because everything moves in cycles, right? So when the
hmm
economy is starting to contract again, and there are less and less traditional jobs, meaning like white collar jobs, going to the office, going to work for an IT tech company, when that starts to shrink, and people are starting to graduate from high school and they start thinking about their lives, like, oh, what can I get into? Then suddenly all the other things that were not open previously start opening up. Like, what about if I become a graphic designer? What if I edit
Yeah,
videos for a living? What if I become a YouTuber? What if I sell things online? What if I become a dancer? then that starts to open up. Even surprisingly, careers like being a police officer, that's starting to open
For
up
sure.
here as well. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's my 2 cents.
No, for sure. Because I mean, I know, um, like I know obviously like financial has a lot to do with anybody's kind of decision. Like, again, I was very lucky, knock on wood, blessed, continue to be blessed. Um, but I also know that like specifically for a lot of Asian families, it has to do with tradition and it has to do with culture,
Right.
wanting to
Yes.
honor that and everything. So, and that's also something that like, my families have traditions, but it's not it nothing to the extent of what I have seen a lot of Asian families have, and that going back generations. So um, that's also been very fascinating to me, just in general, to see how I say family traditions, but maybe just traditions is a better way to say it, but like how that culture, that aspect of family life, um, really dictated, I would say, older generations, maybe not as much now, but then also seeing the potential resentment almost from the older generations to the younger generations, and then the younger generations kind of having that guilt, even if they do feel differently or they want to change, what they do when it comes to jobs specifically, because that's what we're talking about, but just in general. So, that's the other thing that I've always wondered, like if that is a lot of it too, is like family traditions, family culture, what was expected of the older generations now that they're trying to pass that on to the younger generations, and it may not always be compatible with what
Yeah.
what
I think
is
it's one of
now.
the blessings of your life, Ian, that you were not shackled by all that Asian tradition. Like you were free to, like I said, like I was making fun of it a while ago, but I was trying to get to that point where I think growing up in a white household allowed you that freedom to explore all the other things that would have been unavailable to you if you were in an Asian household. You know what I mean? That's one of your
Yeah,
blessings in life, I think.
yeah, no, I definitely that yeah, I'm very lucky,
Because
and just in
it can
general.
get very hard. I mean, like Randall and I talk about this all the time. It can get very hard, like there are a lot of expectations when you're in an Asian household, and especially in the generation that we grew up in,
Yeah,
there's a lot of pressure, a lot of family trauma that gets passed on from generation to generation,
for sure.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
yes.
you're lucky not be the brunt of that.
No,
Yeah.
that's again, and this is the stuff that like not growing up with, but like to me, it's very interesting to hear. It's interesting to talk about with Asians specifically that have grown up with those experiences, because it gives me a it continues to
Like a
affirm that
peek, right, into the life that you could have led, right?
yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
because I mean, there's
Could have been a
definitely
K-pop star, right? No, just kidding.
hey, honestly, but there are parts of it like that I do. I'm very happy that I didn't have those restrictions, but at the same time, like it is very interesting to me to see things that there are aspects of that culture that I will never get to experience
Sure,
because
you
I
can
didn't
ask me
grow
and
up in a
Reynolds some
household.
questions if you want. Well, some stuff you feel like you might want to fill in the gaps. We can tell you. There's a lot of trauma there. We're happy to share some of that with you.
No,
Sure,
I
Right.
take some
think
off of
Take
me.
some
It's
of
fine.
the, take some burden off of us.
top 5 family traumas go. No, I think it's just interesting to have the natural conversations. I think that because each of your traumas, situations, things that you grew up with, whatever, they're so unique to you and your family
Yeah,
and
I can
how
give
you
you some
dealt
talking
with it.
points if you want. Like one of the family traumas that I've experienced is, my father comes from that generation where um, he thinks it's perfectly normal to have 3 or 4 wives. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, like
Oh,
it's perfectly
wow.
okay. And most men from his generation do it. Like the more I grow up, the more I find out, like, oh, so Uncle who and who turns out he's got like 3 mistresses on the side. And like, oh, your dad? He's such a nice guy. I didn't know he had a side piece. Oh, I didn't never knew that. It's like it's so
Right.
normal for the men
Wow.
of their generation.
Oh
You're
man.
in Asia. Yeah. It's so
Is
traumatic.
Oh man.
no, for sure. It would that be like equivalent to like how for Mormonism, like polygamy in that sense, like where it's literally just normal to have multiple wives, multiple families?
That's a good
Or
question. I think part of it, yes, but it's cultural. You have to remember that just like 100 years ago, we just came out of the Qing dynasty, right? So,
fair,
I
yeah.
mean, just over 100 years ago, that was normal. It was normal to purchase a bride. My grandmother, I was telling people in the previous
Wow.
episode, she was basically purchased. Yeah, and the fancy word for it is dowry, but basically she was bought because her
Yeah,
family wasn't doing too well. They needed the
yeah,
money. They had too many children. They had to find them suitable families to put them into to marry off. She was basically bought. In the beginning,
yeah,
there's kinds of wives suffer a lot because obviously, the existing family members look down on them. They're like, "Oh, you were just bought. You're not from a prestigious family, right?"
for sure.
Yeah, so you have to remember that wasn't even that long ago, right? So like men from this
Yeah.
generation, they came from that era where it's like they got the tail end of it, which is like, yeah, it's perfectly normal. Like my dad had like, three families, four families, as long as you could afford it.
But that's the key word, afford it, right? Now we can barely afford ourselves. So it's like, have a side piece. Yeah, right. I'm gonna fend for myself
Yeah.
first.
That's a joke I always tell my wife. She's like, "Oh, do you think you'll ever cheat on me if you find somebody young and pretty?" I was like, "Honey, you're assuming I can afford it. No, I can't afford it."
Right? Exactly,
Oh,
right?
that's hilarious. Dang.
Oh man.
Okay.
I don't
Wow.
even have enough money for you. Like, how am I
Right.
supposed to impress some other chick?
You're like, yeah, no, that ain't gonna happen.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Some other
Oh,
family trauma. Reynold, are there some family trauma you want to share?
For me, it's always been the mother son issue, the parents, the mommy issues. I don't know. A lot of I mean, Vic always sometimes you comment out on your parent or mother issues, but I find a lot of uncles have mom issues. I don't know, maybe that tiger mom style that they do or whatnot, the nagging or something,
Oh, the
high
nagging. Oh my God.
expectations.
Yes.
Yeah, right. The high expectations. I mean, and then the communication, like you just can't communicate. Because I grew up watching like TGIF, right? The like Full House and all those good shows, right? So white Caucasian family. Oh, look, they could talk to their parents. They could talk to their dads and moms so nicely. They have these all nice conversations. I know it's like TV magic and everything, but I'm like always thinking like, oh, if I wasn't in an Asian family, would I have such a good relationship with my parents? Like, look at them. They're talking so nicely. They sit down and then there's like nice music, you know, and then and then they hug at the end. It's like, wow, I want that because
I wish I
well,
had that, right? I
I
wish
wish
I
I
had
had that. Yeah.
that.
I wish it didn't end with us yelling at each other and slamming the doors and
Yeah,
people
yeah,
walking
yeah.
out or something. Like, why does it
That's the
always end like
dream.
that?
That's the
Yeah.
dream. Yeah. I mean, our dreams
Yeah.
are
wow.
simple. I mean, if we could
Yeah.
just get that. I'm sure
Yeah.
Ian gets that every day. So it's no big
Right.
deal.
He's like, oh yeah, that's
No,
normal life. What are you talking about?
no, I mean, I kind of think like it's on both ends. Like, I mean, there were definitely like there were times that my mom and I would, oh my God, we would yell at each other and not talk for days, like straight up. But then,
That's
minus the
comforting
music.
to know. Yeah, it's not just us then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But
Yeah.
but minus, the nice little music playing in the background, there were times that we would sit and, just sit and talk and be like, no, this is what happened. This is, so it's kind of both ends. But yeah, it's insane to me to think that that is something, that another culture would watch or that you all would watch and be like, oh, I wish I had that. Like that to me is kind of like wrapping my head around, like, man, it's,
There
Yeah,
you
you
go.
ever
yeah,
wonder you ever wonder why a lot of Asian movies are so intellectual and kind of subtle? It's never like a Hollywood production where it's so in your face, right? Like you can follow along
yeah, yeah,
easily. Like most Asian movies or TV shows, a lot of times it's like you have to read in between the lines, and that's the same in real life. There are
mm,
just so many things left unspoken, and I think that's where the source of a lot of problems in Asian culture comes up because
interesting.
we're just not that culturally. We're just not like that. We don't just express our views easily, even if we wanted to. Like, I know times are changing and it's getting better. Like, for example, my own mother, she's getting better at kind of like telling us her real feelings, especially about things that happened to us in the past, right? But for the longest
Yeah.
time, she wasn't not able to open up about any of those things. But I think it's
Wow.
because we can never really say what we mean,
Mm,
that a lot of the problems happen. And I'll give you another example of that. For example, like the expectations that parents have towards their children, it comes from a place of love. But because there's so much mishmash, when it comes to all the stuff that they want to say,
yeah.
creates more problems than solutions. So one of the things that typically happens is like your parents, especially if you're a guy or if you're the only guy or the eldest son in the family, they expect you to inherit the business, right? Like we
Yeah.
spent our life, blood, sweat, and tears building up this business to raise you and your brothers and sisters. And now we're giving it to you. You should be so grateful, right? And
Yeah.
most of the time,
Oh,
because the world's changing so fast, right? And most of the time, the kids are like, "I don't want it. Like you can have it.
yeah.
I don't want it.
I want to do something else.
Yeah, I have other dreams. I want to be a dancer, for example, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Like you,
Yeah.
I want to
For
dance. I
sure.
don't. I don't want
Right.
to
How about
work in
you?
a photo booth. Like I don't
Right.
want to.
For
Exactly.
sure.
I don't want to
So a lot of the
manufacture
friction comes
stuff.
from that, right? But it comes from a good place, and they would do some
For sure.
really effed up things like, I'm not going to name any names, but one of my good friends, his situation is that his parents, they have a lot of money, okay? They're rich, but the parents gave each sibling their inheritance the moment they turned, into adults. Like
Oh,
everyone got theirs, except for the eldest son. And the eldest son is like, why? And they're like, oh, you're going to inherit the family business. That's worth more than any of the stuff that we gave to your brothers and sisters. But he's like, no, 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 no. I want that. I just want to be free and I want to have money and I want to pursue what I want to pursue, right? But the parents are like, no, no, no.
yeah.
We're not giving you any money. uh, Here's the business.
Wow.
You're going to run it. And by the way, they're not going to let you run it completely. It's not like they just let go of the reins. No, these are Asian parents we're talking about. So like half of the time they're breathing down your neck. They still can't let go. Right? So you got the worst
Micromanaging.
of both situations, right?
Oh, that's insane.
Oh
Yeah,
Did
I
man.
your
know it's
parents,
tough, man.
Yeah.
did your parents growing up, like, did they want to give you freedom, but still, like, needed to have their hand
Oh,
somewhere
for
into,
sure. Oh, for
Yeah.
sure.
okay.
They make it sound
Yeah.
so nice too. Like, oh yeah, you can do whatever you want. Yeah, right.
Right. But what
Interesting.
they really, you got to
Okay.
read under the, in between the lines. But you can do anything you want as long as it's choice A and B and C. These three, right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
Okay.
extent of your freedom.
There's actually not a
Oh,
lot of
that's
wiggle
ins
room if you think about it.
oh, I mean, that's insane. Like,
Yeah.
Aren't you glad you
wow.
missed out on
Okay.
all of that? So you don't need any of that experience.
I was gonna say, I mean, yes, you're making me feel a little bit better about some things. So,
Yeah, right. That's what we're trying to do. Aim to please, right?
I mean,
yeah,
Reynolds, if you
no.
think about it, the only thing that's sort of the saving grace growing up in an Asian household is the food, right? I
Mm.
I got I gotta admit, we have spectacular food. Asian food is delicious. That's the only
Yeah.
saving grace.
Oh my gosh,
Right.
when I worked on cruise ships, the main crew was Filipino and Indonesian.
Mhm.
And
Awesome food,
oh
right?
my
Yeah.
God, they every
The
night, like,
best.
we would be, at the bar till, whatever time in the morning, and then they would just come out and they would have all these just panfuls of, oh my God, and samadam, all the
It's so
things.
great
It's
because
just
yeah, can I tell you about my cruise ship story?
yeah,
Yeah.
So for my honeymoon all those years ago, me and my wife decided to go to Florida and take the Royal Caribbean cruise.
nice.
And I think it's really a skill or an asset if you can speak Filipino. Because me and my wife, we grew up in the Philippines. So like, we speak
Okay.
Filipino. Yeah. So like when we when we got on the cruise ship, we realized, wait a second, like a third of the crew is Filipino, right? And
Yep.
you get special treatment, like, oh, kuya, I didn't know you're from Manila. Okay, what do you want for breakfast? Like, oh, really? Can I have some longanisa, some corned beef, and some pandesal? Oh, no problem. Tomorrow you come, I prepared for you. Like, oh my God.
Yep. Oh my God, if you knew how to speak a little bit of Tagalog or, whatever it was, and like we always, so yeah, that's so I worked for Holland America, and that was like the brunt of the cleaning, room attendants, a lot of the engineers. It was Filipino Indonesian, so we always would like our goal because I was a cast member, so we were in that weird like eh, we had passenger like we could be up with passengers, but then certain times we still had to be downstairs with crew, but we could interact with both. So we were kind of in this weird middle. Uh, but we, because we had access to passenger things, we were able to get like passenger items and all of that. So we would have this little like mafia essentially with like the Filipinos and Indonesians.
Mm.
And it was like, oh, okay, well, like you can do this and then we can do this and then we can, whatever. And it was just the same deal. It's like we would lose items on the ship and we talked to like, one of the higher ups in the little mafia and magically the next morning in a little brown paper bag, whatever we had lost was there. And they had found it. Or if we wanted food, it's just like, oh,
Yeah.
you get us this alcohol and we'll do this for you. It was amazing. It
You
was
get so
amazing.
much love when you can bond with them, right? When you just
Hmm.
like make them feel like, hey, you're one of us. Like,
Yeah, oh, for
you get
sure.
so
I
much
mean,
love. Yeah, yeah. I really
y-
appreciate that.
yeah.
Yes.
And it was like we were on the, our contracts were 6 months to 12 months long. So like we got to know them, we got to know their families, we got to know. So it was a
Yeah.
very cool community to be a part of and get to know
Yeah.
and
Well,
pick
the
your brains
downside
on.
of that is one time I was riding an elevator here in Taiwan, and it was just me and two other Filipino girls in the elevator, and they obviously couldn't tell I could speak Filipino because I don't look Filipino. Right? I
Mm.
look totally Chinese. Anyway, they started talking about like, oh, look at that guy behind us, and I looked left and right, like, oh wait a second, it's just me. There's no other guy behind us. Oh God, he thinks he's so good looking. Oh, I can't stand him. I was like, hey, wait a second here, lady.
I am
Please
too good
tell me that
looking.
you
I
please
can understand what you're saying.
please tell me you pulled out the Filipino and said something to them.
I was just about to, and the door opened. They stepped out. I'm
Oh,
like, oh
I
well.
would
But that
have
was
called
fun.
I
I just thought to myself that it's really good to just and that kind of reflects on most people nowadays, like including
Mm,
yourself. Like, yes, you're one thing, but you're also 10 other things, right? Yes,
yeah,
you
exactly.
ethnically look South Korean, but then the way you were brought up, your life experiences, the places you've traveled, we're all like
Yeah,
an amalgamation of so many different personalities and cultural, references. It's just amazing, right? Like
yeah,
it's like a hodgepodge of stuff now. It's hard to just define a person into one specific little pigeonhole, right?
it is. Yeah, no, and I think that's one of the cool things, and hopefully it continues. I mean, given the state of world affairs currently, it's like hard to see that sometimes,
Yeah,
um, but in general, I hope that that's the continued pathway that, people take is an amalgamation. I really like that word, like an amalgamation of just experiences and things and people, cultures, and good and bad. So
yeah,
Yes,
that's what
yes,
makes us
definitely.
unique, right? Yeah, wabi
Yes,
sabi,
yes,
as the Japanese would say.
yes. Well,
yes.
that's funny. Somebody just told me about that a couple months ago. I was like, I like that. But yeah,
Embrace the imperfections, right?
You're right.
exactly. Well, I mean, I'm a firm believer that you can't believe in the good, you can't enjoy the good, you can't uh, understand the good unless you've had some type of not good. Like I'm not saying that you
Sure,
need to have
sure,
like
yeah,
these life-altering, lose a limb experiences, but you also need to experience what it is to not make that goal, meet that person, eat that food, to then
right.
when you do get to meet that person, meet that goal, eat that food, then you're like, oh, holy crap, this is amazing. This is what everybody's been talking about. But if it's always something that you have nothing to compare it to, so it's
Exactly, yeah.
normal for you. So
Yeah, the hope is to make it out the other end still in one piece to be able to enjoy the good parts of it.
yes,
Oh,
yes.
yes, of course, of course. Okay. Well, usually towards the end of the show, we uncles like to share a little wisdom, a little take-home message for everyone. So we usually like to start with the guests. So Ian, do you have anything to share, like a take-home message? I know you've been sharing a lot about wisdom already, but sort of sum it
Um,
all up. Yeah.
Oh gosh. I would say it, change is inevitable. Uh, that's a constant. Everything's going to be changing. What makes that matter and what pathway you go down is how you deal with that change. There is no good or
Bravo.
bad.
Mhm.
It's just making a choice and then going with it.
Okay,
Bravo,
it's pretty
bravo.
good.
Yeah.
Pretty good. How about you,
Yeah.
Vic?
Um, always try to make friends with Filipino chefs on a cruise ship or the staff.
Yep.
You
Right?
get special treatment,
Uh,
kids. You
there
know.
we go. Right?
That's a close second. Close second.
There it is. And then for me, I just want to add, piggybacking on Vic's story about the elevator. I think everyone needs to sort of watch out what you say, even though you think they don't know the language. But I just found out because Black Friday, I found a lot of listings for those instant AI translators. Earbuds. I think the new Apple one, the new Apple iPod, AirPods, they could
Yeah,
do
yeah, they
instant
do that, right?
translations now.
Yeah,
Yeah, they
yeah,
could
yeah,
do
yeah.
instant translations now. So you don't even need to know the language. You got these devices that'll be translating. You don't know when, what people are wearing. So we better be watching out just because we think we can speak another language or using another language to talk that no one understands us. But now with technology, we got to watch ourselves.
Yeah, don't be so Asian about it. Just say
Yeah,
what you mean
right.
and mean what you say. Stop making people read in
Right.
between the lines, right?
Right. If you think Vic is good looking, just turn around and tell him. You don't need to
Yeah, if
say
you think I'm
There you
right.
go.
butt ugly, just say so. I don't mind.
There you
Just
go.
tell me directly, right?
Right. He could take it.
Okay,
It's okay.
so then you got to tell your listeners so like if they listen to this, then you comment down below somewhere just saying how good Vic is looking. You
Right.
know,
Well, I
Exactly.
don't
done and
normally
done.
show my
Just
face, so
straightforward.
people probably don't know what I look like.
Right. Just
You,
well,
man,
the more they
international man
call
of mystery.
right,
That's what
exactly.
I'm trying to go for,
Right.
hoping for that side piece, like my father, maybe like
Right.
three or
There
four,
you go.
three or
See,
four
see,
side pieces.
see.
Right. If you're
We're
a
just
cheap side piece, right? If you could go just eat
we're
street
building
food.
your future.
I'm still hoping that Gen Z is easily impressed by by humor and worldliness instead of actual money.
Right.
Right, right.
That's my only shot.
Right. We got a lot of that, just not enough money.
Yeah, I don't have any of that money, that sweet, sweet
Right.
moolah. Like I said earlier, that story about my friend, that's actually me. I don't have any money. My parents are not going to give me any.
Right. He has to run the business. Yeah, he's not getting the money.
I'm doomed. I have to take over the family business. Oh no.
Right. He
Wah
just
wah.
inherited work. That's it. Right.
We should all just be like
Dull.
Ian. Just dance your heart out. Be happy,
Right.
right?
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah,
See, there
man.
you
Oh
go.
man.
There you go.
All
Right.
right,
Just
man.
dance
Thank
it
you so
away.
much for coming
Yes,
onto our
thank you,
show.
Ian. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Please like and subscribe. Of course, sharing is caring. And again, till next time. See ya.
Yeah, and also, Ian, come on our show again, okay? We're trying to build this coalition of Asian uncles. You're honorary Asian uncle, even though you're a banana. That's fine. You can come on.
I love it.
Yeah,
Anytime.
bananas are good too.
Anytime.
All
We
right.
hope to have you on again.
Yes,
Yes,
thank
no,
you.
same.